Hello there everybody, how are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel where, of course, we're talking more about Metroid Dread because Nintendo finally updated their official Metroid Dread website with the third official Metroid Dread report, which has been a series of kind of detailed reports and collections of information that they've been revealing about their game, again, on the official site since launch. It's been very cool and very fun to follow the information that they're sharing. It's giving us some real details, information, and even confirmations about some theories that maybe a lot of us are having right now. And with this third one comes some of the biggest and most important information yet. And so in this video, there are two key pieces that I want to hone in on and really break down with you guys. Now, a lot of you may already be familiar with this website and following these Dread reports, and even Nintendo themselves has been really great about promoting this information in this website and each of these updates on Twitter, for example. So there's a lot of people I have seen discussing this stuff, which is really, really great to see. What I want to focus on is both the information that they discuss around the Chozo, because, man, if you know me and my Metroid fanship and my theories, you know the Chozo has been the #1 aspect of the Metroid lore and story and history that I've been wanting explored more in since even before Metroid Dread was announced. My previous thought was that Metroid Prime 4 might focus on that, and while it still might focus on the Chozo, the fact that we're seeing so much Chozo lore and influence in Metroid Dread just has me over the moon. They do discuss some of the Chozo stuff here, and they even kind of, in a roundabout way, kind of confirm some of the things I've been talking about with you guys since Metroid Dread was announced. The other thing I want to talk about is a brief little section where they do discuss Samus's suit in Metroid Dread, and there's some very interesting details to go over there, and so that's what I want to discuss with you guys today. Of course, before we dive any deeper into the Metroid Dread stuff today, I like to remind you guys I'm always trying to grow the channel here on Rule of Two Review. I upload several videos every single week, and I live stream around once a week. I discuss all things Nintendo, I discuss every single little thing about Metroid possible, and I cover all things gaming. So as you watch this video, if you seem to like what I'm doing and what you hear, then I hope you will consider subscribing to the channel. So again, this is the Metroid Dread Report Volume 3, which was released on July 15th, just the day before my birthday, so that was pretty cool. And of course, Volume 3 focuses on 7 points that define the 2D saga. So this is really Nintendo doubling down on the fact that, hey, we're continuing the specific mainline 2D saga, which we already knew because this game is Metroid 5, but there's just something kind of cool and comforting when we see Nintendo brand it in such a way. At least that's how I feel about it. So we're going to, like I said, we're going to start with this Chozo stuff because what they talk about is very interesting, and there's a big key thing that they talk about that most people have focused on. So the 6th bullet point in this report here, you can see it says the Chozo, and here is what they say. The Chozo were known to be a highly intelligent species capable of developing amazing technologies. Their primary mission was to achieve lasting harmony across the galaxy, once a very powerful force with both intelligence and military might, their position weakened over many years. Now, only a few of them have been sighted, and these remaining Chozo mostly try to avoid attention. Chozo relics, such as ancient ruins from their former civilization, have been found in multiple locations across the galaxy. They then go on to include a transmission from the dev team where they also say, in fact, Samus's equipment, like the power suit and arm cannon, are Chozo technology. When Samus was young, she lost her parents and her home in a tragic incident and was raised by the Chozo on planet Zebes. During that time, she received a Chozo DNA transplant, which allows her to adapt to environments that are otherwise harsh for humans. On planet ZDR, where the Metroid Dread game takes place, there are various implications to be discovered surrounding Chozo civilization, which might connect with the game's story in some way. And of course, we can see some of the imagery that they include here, including the kind of hieroglyphic wall that I discussed in a previous video, a shot from Super Metroid where she's looking at a Chozo statue, and of course, a larger Chozo statue in what seems to be a Chozo kind of temple that we've seen in the first boss fight that they've shown during the treehouse. So all of this, most of this I should say, is stuff that if you've been watching my theory videos over the past month, you've already kind of heard me talk about or confirm a lot of this stuff. This is really doubling down on some of the lore and the aspects of the Chozo history in the Metroid franchise. that I've always been fascinated by and have discussed on videos with you guys already. Now, we'll address the big key thing that everyone has been focused on, and it is the most important thing, and it's the fact that they say that there are other living Chozo that have been sighted throughout the galaxy. This is massive because it confirms what a lot of us have already suspected from the trailer, that there are currently living Chozo. Now, I already mentioned in a prior video how the Chozo were thought to be extinct before even the beginning of the Metroid Prime saga, even really before the beginning of the first game on the NES, which is also known as Zero Mission with the remake on the Game Boy Advance. The general running consensus is that the Chozo were just extinct. Then, the Metroid Dread trailer comes along and shows us a living Chozo in action, sitting at some sort of console or a cockpit, moving stuff around and even maybe talking to somebody. This was one of the hugest revelations, and again, this is something else I talked about at length in some of my videos, and plenty of other people have as well. And so that conversation was, is this a living Chozo who's alive right now? Is this the same Chozo as the evil Chozo that Samus Returns hints at the end of that game? Or is it a good Chozo? Or is this a flashback from a previously dead Chozo, and so there are no currently living Chozo, right? That was kind of the conversation. But here comes this Dread report where they tell us that, yeah, actually, several of them are alive. In fact, the quote again says, now only a few of them have been sighted, and these remaining Chozo mostly try to avoid attention. You guys, the fact that we now have it confirmed that there are some living Chozo as of the time of Metroid Dread is so exciting for so many reasons. I don't even know if I have enough time in this video to discuss it. For myself as a huge Metroid fan and somebody who's always been so attached to the concept of the Chozo and their history with Samus and in the Metroid universe. Partly because, again, my favorite video game of all time is the first Metroid Prime, and that was the first time Nintendo really tried to do something significant with the Chozo and their story, and actually give us lore into their history, you know? And we, of course, then eventually learned that they raised Chozo as a young girl because her parents were killed by Ridley and stuff that I discussed on prior videos. And so the whole Chozo Samus Metroid thing just got more interwoven with the introduction of Metroid Prime, and then the couple of breadcrumbs they've given us since, including like the Metroid manga series, for example. And man, I just wanted more than anything for some or even one Chozo to still be alive somewhere. And again, before Metroid Dread was announced, I wanted Metroid Prime 4 to explore this and have Samus maybe learned that some Chozo are still alive, or come across or meet a living Chozo. Whether it was going to be a small sect of Chozo, a family of Chozo, one individual last remaining Chozo that could still be alive, and that Samus could interact with that Chozo and have some sort of meaningful emotional connection, because to her, the Chozo are basically her family, because her family were killed when she was a young girl. And so, instead of learning that the Chozo are alive and it's like whatever, Metroid Prime 4, no. We're learning that there are some Chozo still alive as of the time of Metroid Dread, which is Metroid 5, which is the furthest in the Metroid timeline we will be. So that means that throughout every single existing Metroid game, from Metroid 1 on the NES, through all the Prime games, through Samus Returns, Other M's, Super Metroid, even frickin' Pinball and Federation Force, that there are some Chozo that are alive out there in the galaxy throughout all of these existing games. And so, of course, we then come to the Chozo that we see in the Metroid Dread trailer. And so now the question becomes, who is that guy or girl? Who is that Chozo, right? Who dat? Who you be? What is that Chozo doing? And are we seeing one of the currently living Chozo? Or is it a rope-a-dope? And maybe that even is still a flashback of a Chozo that is dead, but we're seeing them doing something they did in the past, but could still lead Samus to having to interact with some of the living Chozo. I mean, my mind has fireworks going off inside it thinking about the possibilities. I'm so excited about the fact that we know some living Chozo are alive. And again, this confirms that it's more than one that are still alive as of the time of Metroid Dread. And so what I want more than anything, and to be fair, this is something that I would also be happy with if it happens in Metroid Prime 4 too. Realizing Prime 4 could take place at any different time in the timeline as well, although it will probably still be in the past. along with those other games, is you know, it would be great for Samus to have to deal with in some way the evil Chozo that took over and killed the other Chozo from Samus Returns at the end of that game. Yes, that would be cool, but my real preference here is for her to come across some good Chozo. And like I referenced earlier here, I want her to have a meaningful connection and interaction with some Chozo from the perspective of, oh my god, I thought you were all dead. You are my family. You are my people. You know, I may be human and you may be Chozo, but we are one and the same. You guys raised me. And again, as they further double down here, I told you this in prior videos as well, there was a DNA blood transfusion transplant thing that they did to Samus. Samus is more than human, okay? She's super strong, she's super capable, she can survive other environments, she can survive her power suit crunching her into a little tiny morph ball because she's got Chozo DNA within her. So in a sense, she is one of them, even on like the molecular level. And so for her to come across some Chozo alive in Metroid Dread or in Metroid Prime 4 and interact with them in a positive way, to me, this is just to me, I actually think that would be a little bit more interesting than for her to be like, oh, you're the last evil guy, you're the bad guy, I have to kill you and fight you and destroy you. Like, yeah, that is interesting, and I wouldn't mind if that's maybe part of the story, and even the final boss of Metroid Dread is that evil Chozo. That works fine, and I think it could be really great. I want to see what happens there, but I also want to see her interact with Chozo in a positive way. Maybe she comes across a good Chozo on her way to fight and destroy the final remaining evil Chozo. Like, let's get down and dirty with this whole Chozo conflict, but I don't want it to just be Chozo bad Samus fight. I want her to meet some good Chozo and have that emotional connection. Now, the other important aspect to explore here is her suit. The suit that she's wearing in Metroid Dread. This has been a big topic of conversation ever since the game was revealed for so many reasons. One, because it just looks badass. I mean, come on, this is the coolest looking suit we've seen her in yet. But also because those of us who are Metroid fans and familiar with the games and the history know that the suit she's wearing at any given time in any given game is incredibly important to her abilities, her capabilities, some of the moves or attacks or offenses she can do. It's a huge part of her character and the identity of the Metroid franchise. And so when we first see a new Metroid game and we also see her wearing a new suit we've never seen before, all of us hardcore Metroid nerds start wondering, what does that suit mean? What can it do for her? And a lot of people have talked about it looking similar to the suit she wears in Metroid Fusion, and I've discussed that, and we'll get into that. That's a very complicated situation. I personally never really saw the connection the same way others did, but I'm also colorblind, so maybe color has been part of what people have noticed there, and I can't make connections with color the same way other folks can. But to get to the point here, they confirm in this Metroid Dread Report Volume 3 that there is in fact a connection to the suit she's wearing in Dread to the suit that she wears in Metroid Fusion. In this transmission from the dev team, they say, many people know Samus from the Super Smash Bros. Series. Really? Man, I ain't even gonna talk about that. By the way, the Zero Suit Samus fighter who also appears in Super Smash Bros. Is the same Samus, but without her power suit. I get it, they have to try to reintroduce Samus to people who might not know who Samus is to get them to play this game. Oof, it just stings though, just the way they do that. Anyway, let's move on to the good stuff. In the Metroid Dread game, Samus's suit appears to have changed quite a bit from her previous missions. In the Metroid Fusion game, Samus's suit was greatly transformed after the emergency removal of pieces eroded by the X-Parasite and a life-saving injection of the Metroid vaccine, resulting in an organic appearance for her suit. Now, her suit is gradually returning to its original mechanical power suit form. So to me, this is mind-blowing, okay? And what I will admit is I have seen other people kind of already put this theory out there, including some friends of mine. And so it's not that I haven't already heard this idea. I think it's that it just didn't really make sense to me. And again, maybe my colorblindness blinded me from being able to see the connection and making the same connection. But it's shocking to me to know that this is actually true. It's very cool. I love it, don't get me wrong. but it's shocking. When you look at her power suit, one of the things that we all noticed, and this is something I also discussed on a video and on the podcast I did with Super Metal Dave and Joey Ferris, the fact that the Metroid Dread suit, when we see it in the game, does seem to have some sort of organic, muscly, tissue-like aspects and components to it. Which, yes, that part does harken back to the Metroid Fusion suit. If you look at them side by side, you can kind of see how the Fusion suit had this organic feel, and I discussed this on a video, and again, they're re-explaining it here, how the Fusion suit was infected by X-Parasite, they couldn't remove it, so they gave her a Metroid vaccine, and part of it still stuck to her. So the Fusion suit was like a combination of like Samus's DNA, the X-Parasite, and Metroid DNA. And so again, when we re-compare this to the Dread suit, we're basically seeing these organic sections, these tissue and muscle-like looking sections to the suit, must be the stuff that looked organic on the Fusion suit getting smaller as the rest of the suit is starting to look like her normal power suit and Varia suit form. So, man, this is crazy to me because what this must show is, and I'm just kind of speculating here based on what we do know from the story of Metroid Fusion and what we know about the X-Parasite. By the way, tons of good X-Parasite information in here as well, and even some information that, to me, doubles down and confirms what I've been telling you, that Metroid Other M is still canon, by the way. I'm going to make a separate video about that stuff. I just wanted to throw it out that it's here, and I'm going to talk about it later. But I feel like what must be happening is the X-Parasite is still in process of being removed from her system, right? You know, when I say her system, I mean her body, basically. Because in Metroid Fusion, with the X-Parasite suit and the Metroid Fusion suit, and then the combination of the Metroid vaccine, God, it gets so complicated when you start to explain this stuff, I realize. Because of that, she was actually able to absorb the X-Parasite, and it would actually help her and replenish her health and her ammo. It was like a good thing, right? And so maybe what we're seeing now is, after so much time, the Metroid vaccine has started to fight off more and more of the X-Parasite within her, and so that as the X-Parasite continues to be defeated and lessened within her system, basically fought off like a virus, she's healing from the X-Parasite, so her suit is removing more of the organic X-Parasite material and slowly becoming more like her regular suit. So basically, the less organic material we see on her suit, the less X-Parasite is basically infecting her. That's the best way I can think to explain it, and really just the best kind of current theory and speculation I can give based on the information we're reading from this Dread report and from what we've seen from the trailer and the gameplay and the treehouse and the development history documentary, all that stuff. Like, when you put the pieces together, that's what I think is probably going on. Maybe this is wrong and they confirm some other details, or maybe the game just itself shows us that something different is going on. But now that they're confirming it's the same suit from Fusion and it's reverting back to its original form from the Fusion suit, I mean, it just seems pretty obvious that that must be what's happening here. But we do know that the X-Parasite is also playing a huge part to the story here, and I think that that is both in the form of Samus, as well as stuff happening on planet ZDR, and the fact that the Emmy robots themselves, apparently sent from the Galactic Federation, that's kind of as the story is going so far, are only meant to extract and attack the X-Parasite. That's what they're there to do, but apparently they've gone rogue. So the X-Parasite plays a big role in this game, and so knowing the Fusion suit is what she's wearing, but it's also changing, and so she's got X-Parasite, but maybe less X-Parasite, it all seems to tell a much bigger story. And so, at this point, I think this is the best we have to go on with these two facets, the Chozo stuff and the Metroid Fusion / Metroid Dread suit, which does dive into the X-Parasite stuff that we're going to have to talk about on a later video. But boy, is it all fascinating, and boy, is it all exciting, man. I love these Dread reports. I'm loving the build-up to this game. They're giving us so much info and stuff to theorize over and speculate about and information to pour through, so I can just make these great conversation videos and just discuss it with you guys and geek out over this game, man. I still can't believe it's real. It's so freaking cool. So what do you guys think about my theories and breakdowns and everything going on from this Dread report, the stuff that we discussed today? Do you agree with some of what I'm speculating on? Do you have different theories yourself? Whatever you think, talk about it below. And with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of 2 Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.